The tea leaf reading started early in the season, and by the end of the year in New England, it was basically a shout that Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots would go their separate ways at the end of the season. Still, that doesn't make it any less startling to see the news come across that Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, after 6 Super Bowl titles, are finished. Mike Debate from Locked On Patriots joins me now. And Mike, this is something you and I have talked about on and off the air over the course of the last year or so. Still, what was your reaction when you finally saw the news here on Thursday morning?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Peter, you're still never prepared for that type of news when you get it. You know it's coming. It seems to be inevitable. All the tea leaves, like you said, are reading in one direction. But for a franchise to part with a coach that has been a principal architect of arguably the greatest sports dynasty in the last 30 years, I really think that there's a lot to be said for that. And it definitely is a lot of emotion in Patriots Nation right now. You have the loyalists to Bill Belichick that will not be happy with the decision. You have some of the more moderates that feel like Bill Belichick did everything he possibly could to lead this team to glory, and he did, and they're appreciative. But the time had come for him to move on and for the organization to move in a different direction. And then you have some that are just simply ready for a change and really, I don't think, fully absorbed the depth of what Bill Belichick did for this organization. So there's a lot going on in Patriots Nation right now, but ultimately, this is definitely a bittersweet day. Legends don't come along all that often, and New England is saying goodbye to one today.
Yeah, there are people in their 30s right now who can barely remember a day when the New England Patriots weren't the preeminent franchise in the NFL. We are talking about the most sustained run of excellence maybe in modern sports.
Right.
And we'll see what the next step is here. I thought it was interesting, Mike, at the last press conference that Belichick had, the end of season sort of post-mortem press conference, he talked about being willing to say, hey, if Robert Kraft and the organization thinks the best thing is for someone else to handle the front office responsibilities, I'd be willing to do that. That seemed like a message. Hey, don't blame me if this goes bad. How did it get to this point? Why was the organization ready to say, we're going to move on from arguably the greatest coach in NFL history?
Well, I mean, initially you look at the 4-13 finish, and that definitely does not palate well in Foxborough, especially with the Krafts, who are used to sustained winning. Let's not forget that since Robert Kraft took the reins in 1994, there hadn't been a 1-15 season or a blackout season the way some of the older Patriots fans that lived through those days, Peter, understand. The Krafts have not presided over that type of futility. And you look at the recent track record, and again, I'm only playing devil's advocate here, but the Patriots finished last for the first time since 2000 in the AFC East. Belichick's that was Belichick's first season as head coach. Hasn't happened since. You know, you look at some of the difficulties that the coach has had over the course of the last couple of years, whether it be with draft misses or whether it be with personnel decisions. All of these factored into the Kraft's decision. So if you're asking what got to this point, that's probably what led them there. But also, I think you have to definitely remind everyone, and I think that's exactly what Bill Belichick was doing by saying, hey, you know what? If I feel that's best for the football team and we cannot collectively come to that decision, then yeah, I'm for it. He mentioned his contract, which he almost never does. It was almost like pushing all the chips on the table directly in front of Robert Kraft and saying, okay, I'm willing to do what it takes to make this work. It's up to you now, Robert. What do you want? Obviously, ownership felt that it was time to move in a different direction. So we'll see if that gamble's going to pay off.
It doesn't seem like this is the end of Bill Belichick.
No, I can tell you from covering him this year and watching him still light up every time you ask him to describe a play or the history of a certain player or the nuances and what goes into game planning and X's and O's. This is a guy who loves to coach. And I did not get the impression, even when the season struggled and even when there were, the bleakest hours of the Patriots dynasty in the last recent memory, Bill Belichick always talked about coaching with a glowing type of fire that I believe is still there. So he will coach elsewhere next year. It's going to be interesting to see where his landing spot is. You mentioned Don Shula's record. That's obviously something that's on his mind and definitely in his purview. Does he go to a franchise that gives him the best chance to reach that by winning games, quickly rather than later? I think that's definitely going to be something that he's going to strongly consider. But I fully expect him to be in the league coaching next year.
Do you have a landing spot in mind? Do you think makes the most sense given where the openings are? And could an opening pop open now that, hey, Bill Belichick's available? Let's see if we can go get that guy.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of different opportunities. I know the Chargers is a name that a lot of people gravitate towards because of the talent in place and the ability for them to compete right away. That's one I would keep an eye on. Atlanta is one that keeps popping up. There's definitely an ownership there that is committed to spending money, getting players in, probably would be open to bringing in whoever Bill Belichick wants as a coaching staff. So that's another one to keep an eye on. I always look at the Commanders as an outside possibility. Even though they say they're out of it, I still don't believe they're out of it. These are definite names that could definitely pop up. And Peter, one to watch this weekend. If your Packers can possibly take care of the Dallas Cowboys and move on, that's a job that I would be intrigued by if I were Bill Belichick. That's a hypothetical, but I think it's possible.